Dear Mom and Dad, I am always hungry. We only get 2 slices of bread and 1 plate porridge.
This morning, at 2 a.m., he woke us up and started to preach to us on how stupid the Indian was.
7 children ran away because they're hungry. 2 from Saddle and 1 from Frog Lake.
Then this morning at 5 a.m., he got us up to go and scrub the basement. It was there I decided I'd like to go home.
I went to school 3 days since I came here. That's the reason why my father sent me here to work.
He said that it's either residential school for my boys or I go to jail.
Dear Mom and Dad, please send us if you do not want us to come home in caskets.
It's me, my brother, from here, from this settlement. We're the only ones. We were the only ones that were taken. There was my older sister Mabel, my older brother Edward, my older brother Seabird, and myself. I was the youngest of the 4 that were taken from here. They come here and they took, there was 2 of them, 2 guys. There was an RCMP. Why they needed an RCMP, I don't know. But 4 kids were taken by these 2 white guys, a white man and an RCMP. They come and took us from our home. And they took us, and I never see it home till I was 16 years old. When they took me, I was 3. Never seen anybody. I didn't know I had a mother. I didn't know I had a dad. I didn't know I had uncles. What was an uncle or an aunt? I didn't know.
I was about 7 years old when I went there. Yeah, about 7. Because I remember everything, you know. But nothing but work. No schooling. But what do you do? There's nothing I can do.
And I know for a fact that many of my relatives fled. They fled from where we were. Some of my relatives fled into the bush so that they could prevent their children from being abducted by those Indian agents. I call it abduction because that's what I believe it is. And when the settlement opened up in Gift Lake, a lot of the people decided to take the script and go reside in Gift Lakes to prevent us, kids like myself, to come and get taken.
My father was passed away when I was 12 years old, so I've never had the opportunity to ever talk to him about residential schools. In fact, I didn't even know that he went to residential schools until I was in my late 30s, early 40s. So knowing that my father went to residential school, I started asking some questions, but there were very few people that could answer the questions for me.
My dad and mom didn't want us to go to residential school, so instead we were going to white schools like Whitnall School, and then later on it was Muckray School because it was closer. An Indian Affairs guy came and an RCMP. There's the Indian Affairs started getting upset and told my dad, okay Sam, he said, you kids cannot go to school in white school. You know you're an Indian? Indians don't go to white school. My dad said, I pay for fees for my kids to go. Oh no, he told him, either they all go to residential school or you're going to allow one to go. So pick which one you want to go to residential school. So mom and dad were talking, deciding what to do, I guess. I don't know. Then after they asked, he said, Sam, who's going to go? Then he said, Emma. So I just sat there, never said anything. And so he told him, he said he has to catch the train tomorrow to go.
The story that my mother told me when she first arrived at the residential school, she said she was with her mom and she went in and they took her in and they washed her up, they gave her a bath and did her hair and cut her hair, and then she came out and her mom was still sitting there. So she was 4 years old and she's like, I'm ready to go now, Mom. And obviously, you know, her mom probably had to tell her that she had to stay. You know, it must have been such a scary time for my mom. It must have been a very traumatic for her to stay, you know, in a place with strangers and not knowing, and your mom gone, and you never know when you're gonna see her again.
I didn't stay in the mission. I stayed, I think, 3 days one time because the weather was so bad. What I'd do is I'd go in a bush and big spruce trees. I'd go and climb them trees, and I'd play hooky. I didn't go to school much.
Every year we walked to school. In the fall time, up to winter time, when it was cold, we'd use sometimes a dog. I used one dog, and my brothers used to use their own dogs. And then finally it went on that late in the winter, we used a horse with a cutter. If you were late to school, you had to write 100 lines. I will not be late again. I will not be late again 100 times.
When we'd get up in the morning at 6 o'clock, we'd go down to the chapel. We have to stay there for going to the chapel, pray there for an hour or so. Come back, have breakfast, which consisted of porridge, and that was it.
At lunchtime, we carried our own lunch in little lard pails. We never brought bannock. We were scared to bring bannock because they'd laugh at us. They'd laugh at us. The kids would laugh at us, and the sisters would do something about it. So we all used to eat bread sandwiches.
Dinner time, we'd come back, we'd sit there, we'd have some bread and some soup or something like that. Then the afternoon again, we'd go back to school. And we'd stay there till 4 o'clock, and then we'd have supper. Then we were allowed a little bit of a recreation after that for maybe a couple hours.
I used to get up sometimes, not just me alone, there was a lot of boys that working in the barnyard, milking cows and stuff. Sometimes I have to go in church in the morning, you know, serving mass to the priest. And after school, I have to go upstairs, change my clothes, then go to the barn and milk cows. See my finger here? That's from milking. And we milk, I don't know how many cows, there was lots, because there was a lot of kids.
But I got along good with the priest. There was a priest, Father Couture was his name. He was a real athlete. And he showed me how to play hockey. And I played goal. He said, you belong as a goalie. So I was a goalie.
Well, what I did, I just followed the rules. Yes, man, jump, and how high. That's exactly how I got along. You know, and so did a lot of other boys. You had no say. You never say what and say to who. You had no say at all. So you did what you were told, or you will be beaten.
When I went to residential school, I was 9 years old. And I spent those years, I think about 8 years, because I was 17 when I got out. That would make 8 years. Out of those 8 years, my life had changed completely from the way I was. The way we were raised, because that was wrong, the way the natives raised their kids. What is the right way? My parents thought they were doing a good job of this. And that was taken away from me.
The sister Benigna, the sister that was mean, he used to hit us with a big book. He hit us physically. So I did something bad, according to her. So she come and hit me with that book, and I was old enough now to fight back. So I hit the book when it was flying down like this. Come and hit me, I hit that book and knocked it out of her hand. And she ran and got the priest. Now the priest beats you up, eh? That's what he did. So I ran in the back, the stairs go down and back, and I just got to the second step and he kicked me in the back. He was chasing me, the priest had come in. And I fell tumbling down and fell down in the bottom. And still remember, very traumatic. I got knocked out and he was down there. I woke up, he was putting snow on my face. I woke up and I sat for a while and I laid for a while till I got my strength. And I jumped up and he tried to hold me. He said, stay, stay, stay. And I ran home. I rested about 3 times, 3 miles, eh? And I got home and my father come and seen when that I was injured. And he come up here and that's when I said, he talked to him in French, I guess. I don't know what he said, but I stayed home and my dad was very, very strong and mean man. Or very strict man. I don't know what he said, but they never heard me again. I come to school again, but I didn't want to come to school. I from then on, I've never was right. With that injury, still I got a lump there still.
I grew up with the Cree language. I spoke Cree fluently till I was 15. Like the whole community spoke Cree. And when I had to go to school, I could not understand any word of English. And we were disciplined for speaking Cree, even though it wasn't a residential school. And I do remember the nuns being really harsh to us and slapping us on our hands if we tried to speak, if we spoke Cree.
The more I went to school, the less I spoke Cree, which is really shameful because that's where our natural laws are. That's where our whole way of being or how we're supposed to live is in the language. The spirit is in the language. It shows us compassion, it shows us kindness, it shows us how to be in relationship with one another. It's about kinship.
And me and my friend, we just finished washing the chapel and we were coming out and we were talking in Cree and she come around the corner. He said, sit here, he told us, there's chairs there. So we sat down, we were wondering and he told us, you're dirty, dirty. And my friend said, no, we're not dirty. We take a shower or a bath every day or every night. We're not dirty. Yes, you are because you're an Indian. You know that Indians are dirty. I never said nothing. She said a few things. She got a few good slaps.
I would get licking. We were beaten steady, I'm telling you. Those nuns, I'm telling you, they must have had sore arms because, by God, they beat the piss out of us. I'm not lying.
There's one instance that one of them nuns was smaller than you. I was bigger than her. And she said, I'll give you the strap. And she had a little board about this long, about this wide, stick about. I'll give you the strap with this. Give me your hand. And I pull it. And she took herself. I pull it. I said, you're not going to give me no strap. You know what? There's one word I always remembered I said to one of these nuns. You're smaller than me. If I would be mean, I'd give you a good licking right here. That's what I said. I tell her, you know. I said, so don't bother me too much. If you got something to say, talk to my mom. I'll drive her here with the team of horses and you talk to her. She didn't want to. No. That's what it was.
They hurt me a lot, you know. When I went there, Mom and Dad figured that I'm going to learn something, you know. I learned bad things, that's about it, what I seen.
I saw some funny things. But something I saw, I don't know how to explain that. But one day, this would be probably about 1, maybe 2 o'clock in the morning, I had to get up to use the washroom, the bathroom. So I went there and I coming back. And I seen these nuns walking. They were holding candles, they were walking. And ahead of them, there was this one nun carrying something. And I can't say, but we can all guess what they were doing. What was that procession, and that going like carrying whatever it was they were carrying in a procession, going. What were they? They didn't. I don't know if they come back with this, but I didn't see them. But finally, I knew later in years that the children were dying.
What they did was absolutely wrong. They don't even tell the parents when the kid is dying and they bury them like that. You know, they should tell the parents at least, have the right kind of funeral, but they didn't, and that was very, very wrong. I don't know what they're going to do with that because they'll never finish paying for it. We didn't even know that. Where they buried them, we don't know. Because I never seen a graveyard, not when I was there.
We lift up with gratitude the efforts of all those who are seeking to honor the sacred lives of the children who went missing from residential schools and whose fates are unknown to those who held them most dear. The loss of their giftedness is our collective loss. They died alone with no one to cry for them, though they had mothers and fathers, grandmothers, aunties and cousins who missed and loved them.
I blame my parents. It never bothered me before. I come home happy, my parents given me meat, and I went to bed and I start thinking, I don't belong here no more. So the next day I did all the stuff I'm supposed to do. Then about 3 miles I think where the nurse was, so I walk over there. And we talked, and I told her that I want to leave. That's when I left.
I didn't mind going to school. The reason why I didn't want to come back because I was getting called names by the sisters because they used to call me Savage. That means Indian, and I was not an Indian, I was a Métis. I used to tell them that. And then we'd get mad over it, and that's the reason why I told him I'm not coming back to school. Those were the Cardinal girls. That was what? Virginia and Delia from up north. I remember them. It's funny I'm not in that picture. Very funny.
I had to go to school in High Prairie when I was 15 to the high school, and I struggled because I was still thinking in Cree. And I could not translate what the teachers were saying in English fast enough for me to grasp what they were saying. I thought, I can't do this. So I quit school. I found a way to quit school. I became pregnant, so my parents had to pull me out of school.
When I was about 13, I got in a bit of trouble at school, and I stayed home. I was slept in and I wouldn't wake up. My dad come and woke me up finally in 2 days, and she said, son, I'm going to give you a choice. You either go to school or go to work. He said, I'll pay your school and everything, and you can go to school. Of course, I took work instead. What they did to kids is they had control, total control over us. And to be able to stand there and take that abuse, it's hard to find love. You cannot not find love after that. It's hard to love anybody, your family, your relatives.
And so with the emotional part, like we never, like if something would happen in our home or violence would, you know, come up in our home, it was never talked about. It was never like, are you okay? Are you okay? How are you feeling? There is none of that. We didn't have any affection. We lost the affection, like for her to, you know, hug or kiss us or, you know, say, oh, I love you, or we never had that in our home.
They were trying to take away the love that you have. That's the most thing they did. They want you to hate. Hate myself, hate others. Everybody that went to residential school must feel that way. They had taken a lot of stuff from you.
Residential schools is something that has impacted my family for generations, and it's disrupted our emotional connection to one another. My cookum was raised in a home where she was taught corporal punishment. She didn't have emotional connections with her caregivers, and that's something that she carried on for a while with her own children. And as a result of that, I was raised without an emotional connection or the sense of love shown to me. And for me, that stops today.
Glad to be around my grandchildren. Pray I will fight to the death before I ever see any of my grandchildren go in a place like that. Or foster homes. Never. Sometimes they say, can't you forgive these people? Hard. I said before, I'm trying hard to forgive them. But every time I'm thinking about this, the deeper I go, the more angry I get.
It's an awful thing. I would never allow my children to go to residential school. But that was part of life for me. I had to accept it.
I can't understand why people that profess to be walking with God would come and ruin the lives of our people, our children, creating damages that is felt for decades and still keeps haunting us. You could see it in the suicides of our young kids, the incarceration rates of our people, the high rates of child welfare, which in my eyes is another form of residential school. And now the mass graves, like how much pain can one endure? And how can this healing start?
But my mom, through it all, like even though she went through all those things, like she was a woman of integrity, She had a great faith in God, and she showed us like to have faith. Those are the great things that I can think about my mom.
I believe in our Heavenly Father. I raised my kids with that, to learn to pray, to remember where we come from. And never to be ashamed of what they are. Because I had the hardest time I know I'm an Indian, but I had the hardest time to be one after being in residential school.
Our children need love. They need to be hugged. They need to be told how valuable they are, to build them up inside. Every day I work hard to tell my kids how much I love them. I hug them as often as I can, even if it does still feel a little awkward sometimes. But working at it every day is how we break that cycle that was given to us for generations.